Hello and welcome back to the Whistling Podcast. My name is JIng. We continue with part 2 of my reading of the JIng, translated by Derek Lin. (41) Higher people hear of the Tao. They diligently practice it. Average people hear of the Tao. They sometimes keep it and sometimes lose it. Lower people hear of the Tao. They laugh loudly at it. If they do not laugh, it would not be the Tao. Therefore a proverb has the following: the clear Tao appears unclear. The advancing Tao appears to retreat. The smooth Tao appears uneven. High virtue appears like a valley. Great integrity appears like disgrace. Encompassing virtue appears insufficient. Building virtue appears inactive. True substance appears inconstant. The great square has no corners. The great vessel is late in completion. The great music is imperceptible in sound. The great image has no form. The Tao is hidden and nameless, yet it is only the Tao. That excels in giving and completing everything. (42) Tao produces one. One produces two. Two produce three. Three produce myriad things. Myriad things, backed by yin and embracing yang, achieve harmony by integrating their energy. What the people dislike are alone, bereft, and unworthy, but the rulers call themselves with these terms. So with all things, appear to take loss but benefit, or receive benefit but lose. What the ancients taught, I will also teach. The violent one cannot have a natural death. I will use this as the principle of all teachings. (43) The softest things of the world override the hardest things of the world. That which has no substance enters into that which has no openings. From this I know the benefits of unattached actions, the teaching without words. The benefits of actions without attachment are rarely matched in the world. 44. Fame or the self, which is dearer? The self or wealth, which is greater? Gain or loss, which is more painful? Thus excessive love must lead to great spending. Excessive hoarding must lead to heavy loss. Knowing contentment avoids disgrace. Knowing when to stop avoids danger. Thus one can endure indefinitely. 45. Great perfection seems flawed. Its function is without failure. Great fullness seems empty. Its function is without exhaustion. Great straightness seems bent. Great skill seems unrefined. Great eloquence seems inarticulate. Stillness overcomes movement. Cold overcomes heat. Clear quietness is the standard of the world. 46. When the world has the Tao, fast horses are retired to fertilize the grounds. When the world lacks the Tao, war horses must give birth on the battlefield. There is no crime greater than greed, no disaster greater than discontentment, no fault greater than avarice. Thus the satisfaction of contentment is the lasting satisfaction. "47. Without going out the door, know the world. Without peering out the window, see the heavenly Tao. The further one goes, the less one knows. Therefore the sage knows without going, names without seeing, achieves without striving." "48. Pursue knowledge, daily gain. Pursue Tao, daily loss. Loss and more loss, until one reaches unattached action. With unattached action, there is nothing one cannot do. Take the world by constantly applying non-interference. The one who interferes is not qualified to take the world." "49. The sages have no constant mind. They take the mind of the people as their mind. Those who are good, I am good to them. Those who are not good, I am also good to them. Thus the virtue of goodness. Those who believe, I believe them. Those who do not believe, I also believe them. Thus the virtue of belief. The sages live in the world. They cautiously merge their mind for the world. The people all pay attention with their ears and eyes. The sages care for them as children." "50. Coming into life, entering death. The followers of life, 3 in 10. The followers of death, 3 in 10. Those whose lives are moved toward death, also 3 in 10. Why? Because they live lives of excess. I've heard of those who are good at cultivating life. Traveling on the road, they do not encounter rhinos or tigers. Entering into an army, they are not harmed by weapons. Rhinos have nowhere to thrust their horns. Tigers have nowhere to clasp their claws. Soldiers have nowhere to lodge their blades. Why? Because they have no place for death. "51. Tao produces them. Virtue raises them. Things shape them. Forces perfect them. Therefore all things respect the Tao and value virtue. The respect for Tao, the value of virtue, not due to command but to constant nature. Thus Tao produces them. Virtue raises them, grows them, educates them, perfects them, matures them, nurtures them, protects them, produces but does not possess, acts but does not flaunt, nurtures but does not dominate. This is called mystic virtue. "52. The world has a beginning. We regard it as the mother of the world. Having its mother, we can know her children. Knowing her children, still holding on to the mother, live without danger all through life. Close the mouth, shut the doors, live without toil all through life. Open the mouth, meddle in the affairs, live without salvation all through life. Seeing details is called clarity. Holding on to the soft is called strength. Utilize the light. Return to the clarity, leaving no disasters for the self. This is called practicing constancy. "53. I have a little knowledge, walking on the great Tao. I fear only to deviate from it. The great Tao is broad and plain, but people like the side paths. The courts are corrupt, the fields are barren, the warehouses are empty. Officials wear fineries, carry sharp swords, fill up on drinks and food, acquire excessive wealth. This is called robbery. It is not the Tao." "54. That which is well established cannot be uprooted. That which is strongly held cannot be taken. The descendants will commemorate it forever. Cultivate it in yourself. Its virtue shall be true. Cultivate it in the family. Its virtue shall be abundant. Cultivate it in the community. Its virtue shall be lasting. Cultivate it in the country. Its virtue shall be prosperous. Cultivate it in the world, its virtue shall be widespread. Therefore observe others with yourself. Observe other families with your family. Observe other communities with your community. Observe other countries with your country. Observe the world with the world. With what do I know the world? With this. "55. Those who hold an abundance of virtue are similar to newborn infants. Poisonous insects do not sting them. Wild beasts do not claw them. Birds of prey do not attack them. Their bones are weak, tendons are soft, but their grasp is firm. They do not know of sexual union but can manifest arousal due to the optimum of essence. They can cry the whole day and yet not be hoarse due to the optimum of harmony. Knowing harmony is said to be constancy. Knowing constancy is said to be clarity. Excessive vitality is said to be inauspicious. Mind overusing energy is said to be aggressive. Things become strong and then grow old. This is called contrary to the Tao. That which is contrary to the Tao will soon perish. Those who know do not talk. Those who talk do not know. Close the mouth, shut the doors. Blunt the sharpness, unravel the knots. Dim the glare, mix the dust. This is called mystic oneness. They cannot obtain this and be closer. They cannot obtain this and be distant. They cannot obtain this and be benefited. They cannot obtain this and be harmed. They cannot obtain this and be valued. They cannot obtain this and be degraded. Therefore, they become honored by the world. Govern a country with upright integrity. Deploy the military with surprise tactics. Take the world with non-interference. How do I know this is so? With the following. When there are many restrictions in the world, the people become more impoverished. When people have many sharp weapons, the country becomes more chaotic. When people have many clever tricks, more strange things occur. The more laws are posted, the more robbers and thieves there are. Therefore the sage says, I take unattached action, and the people transform themselves. I prefer quiet, and the people right themselves. I do not interfere, and the people enrich themselves. I have no desires, and the people simplify themselves. 58. When governing is lackluster, the people are simple and honest. When governing is scrutinizing, the people are shrewd and crafty. Misfortune is what fortune depends upon. Fortune is where misfortune hides beneath. Who knows their ultimate end? They have no determined outcome. Rightness reverts to become strange. Goodness reverts to become wicked. The confusion of people has lasted many long days. Therefore the sages are righteous without being scathing, incorruptible without being piercing, straightforward without being ruthless, illuminated without being flashy. In governing people and serving heaven, there is nothing like conservation. Only with conservation is it called submitting early. Submitting early is called emphasis on accumulating virtues. Accumulating virtues means there is nothing one cannot overcome. When there is nothing that one cannot overcome, one's limits are unknown. The limitations being unknown, one can possess sovereignty. With this mother principle of power, one can be everlasting. This is called deep roots and firm foundation, the Tao of longevity and lasting vision. Ruling a large country is like cooking a small fish. Using the Tao to manage the world, its demons have no power. Not only do its demons have no power, its gods do not harm people. Not only do its gods not harm people, the sages also do not harm people. They both do no harm to one another, so virtue merges and returns. "61. The large country is like the lowest river, the converging point of the world, the receptive female of the world. The female always overcomes the male with serenity, using serenity as the lower position. Thus, if the large country is lower than the small country, then it can take the small country. If the small country is lower than the large country, then it can be taken by the large country. Thus one uses the lower position to take. The other uses the lower position to be taken. The large country only wishes to gather and protect people. The small country only wishes to join and serve people, so that both obtain what they wish. The larger one should assume the lower position." The Tao is the wonder of all things, the treasure of the kind person, the protection of the unkind person. Admirable words can win the public's respect. Admirable actions can improve people. Those who are unkind, how can they be abandoned? Therefore, when crowning the emperor and installing the 3 ministers, although there is the offering of jade before 4 horses, none of it can compare to being seated in this Tao. Why did the ancients value this Tao so much? Is it not said that those who seek will find, and those with guilt will not be faulted? Therefore, it is the greatest value in the world. "63. Act without action, manage without meddling, taste without tasting, great, small, many, few, respond to hatred with virtue, plan difficult tasks through the simplest tasks, achieve large tasks through the smallest tasks. The difficult tasks of the world must be handled through the simple tasks. The large tasks of the world must be handled through the small tasks. Therefore, sages never attempt great deeds all through life. Thus they can achieve greatness. One who makes promises lightly must deserve little trust. One who sees many easy tasks must encounter much difficulty. Therefore, sages regard things as difficult, so they never encounter difficulties all through life. When it is peaceful, it is easy to maintain. When it shows no signs, it is easy to plan. When it is fragile, it is easy to break. When it is small, it is easy to scatter. Act on it when it has not begun. Treat it when it is not chaotic. A tree thick enough to embrace grows from the tiny sapling. A tower of 9 levels starts from the dirt heap. A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. The one who meddles will fail. The one who grasps will lose. Therefore, sages do not meddle and thus do not fail. They do not grasp and thus do not lose. People in handling affairs often come close to completion and fail. If they are as careful in the end as the beginning, then they would have no failure. Therefore, sages desire not to desire. They do not value goods that are hard to acquire. They learn to unlearn, to redeem the fault of the people, to assist the nature of all things, without daring to meddle. "65. Those of ancient times who were adept at the Tao used it not to make people brighter, but to keep them simple. The difficulty in governing people is due to their excessive cleverness. Therefore, using cleverness to govern the state is being a thief of the state. Not using cleverness to govern the state is being a blessing of the state. Know that these two are both standards. Always knowing these standards is called mystic virtue. Mystic virtue is so profound, so far-reaching. It goes opposite to material things. Then it reaches great congruence. "66. Rivers and oceans can be the kings of 100 valleys, because of their goodness in staying low. So they can be the kings of 100 valleys. Thus, if sages wish to be over people, they must speak humbly to them. If they wish to be in front of people, they must place themselves behind them. Thus the sages are positioned above, but the people do not feel burdened. They are positioned in front, but the people do not feel harmed. Thus the world is glad to push them forward without resentment. Because they do not contend, so the world cannot contend with them." "67. Everyone in the world calls my Tao great, as if it is beyond compare. It is only because of its greatness that it seems beyond compare. If it can be compared, it would already be insignificant long ago. I have 3 treasures. I hold on to them and protect them. The first is called compassion. The second is called conservation. The third is called not daring to be ahead in the world. Compassionate, thus able to have courage. Conserving, thus able to reach widely. Not daring to be ahead in the world, thus able to assume leadership. Now if one has courage but discards compassion, reaches widely but discards conservation, goes ahead but discards being behind, then death. If one fights with compassion, then victory. With defense, then security. Heaven shall save them, and with compassion guard them." "68. The great generals are not warlike. The great warriors do not get angry. Those who are good at defeating enemies do not engage them. Those who are good at managing people lower themselves. It is called the virtue of non-contention. It is called the power of managing people. It is called being harmonious with heaven, the ultimate principle of the ancients." 69. In using the military, there is a saying, I dare not be the host, but prefer to be the guest. I dare not advance an inch, but prefer to withdraw a foot. This is called marching in formation without formation, raising arms without arms, grappling enemies without enemies, holding weapons without weapons. There is no greater disaster than to underestimate the enemy. Underestimating the enemy almost made me lose my treasures. So when evenly matched armies meet, the side that is compassionate shall win. 70. My words are easy to understand, easy to practice. The world cannot understand, cannot practice. My words have basis, my actions have principle. People do not understand this, therefore they do not understand me. Those who understand me are few, thus I am highly valued. Therefore the sage wears plain clothes but holds jade. 71. To know what you do not know is highest. To not know but think you know is flawed. Only when one recognizes the fault as a fault can one be without fault. The sages are without fault, because they recognize the fault as a fault. That is why they are without fault. 72. When people no longer fear force, they bring about greater force. Do not limit their place. Do not reject their livelihood. Because the ruler does not reject them, therefore they do not reject the ruler. Therefore the sages know themselves but do not glorify themselves, respect themselves but do not praise themselves. Thus they discard that and take this. 73. The bold in daring will be killed. The bold in not daring will survive. Of these two, one may benefit, the other may harm. The one hated by heaven, who knows the reason? Even the sages still find this difficult. The Tao of heaven does not contend and yet excels in winning, does not speak and yet excels in responding, is not summoned and yet comes on its own, is unhurried and yet excels in planning. The heavenly net is vast, loose, and yet does not let anything slip through. 74. People do not fear death. How can they be threatened with death? If people are made to constantly fear death, then those who act unlawfully, I can capture and kill them. Who would dare? There exists a master executioner that kills. If we substitute for the master executioner to kill, it is like substituting for the great carpenter to cut. Those who substitute for the great carpenter to cut, it is rare that they do not hurt their own hands. 75. The people's hunger is due to the excess of their rulers' taxation, so they starve. The people's difficulty in being governed is due to the meddling of their ruler, so they are difficult to govern. The people's disregard for death is due to the glut in their ruler's pursuit of life, so they disregard death. Therefore those who do not strive for living are better than those who value living. (76) While alive, the body is soft and pliant. When dead, it is hard and rigid. All living things, grass and trees, while alive are soft and supple. When dead, become dry and brittle. Thus, that which is hard and stiff is the follower of death. That which is soft and yielding is the follower of life. Therefore, an inflexible army will not win. A strong tree will be cut down. The big and forceful occupy a lowly position, while the soft and pliant occupy a higher place. 77. The Tao of heaven is like drawing a bow. Lower that which is high, raise that which is low, reduce that which has excess, add to that which has deficiency. The Tao of heaven reduces the excessive and adds to the deficient. The Tao of people is not so, reducing the deficient in order to offer to the excessive. Who can offer their excess to the world? Only those who have the Tao. Therefore sages act without conceit, achieve without claiming credit. They do not wish to display their virtue. "78. Nothing in the world is softer or weaker than water, yet nothing is better at overcoming the hard and strong. This is because nothing can replace it. That the weak overcomes the strong and the soft overcomes the hard, everybody in the world knows, but cannot put into practice. Therefore sages say, the one who accepts the humiliation of the state is called its master. The one who accepts the misfortune of the state becomes king of the world. The truth seems like the opposite. 79. After settling a great dispute, there must be remaining resentments. How can this be considered good? Therefore the sage holds the left part of the contract, but does not demand payment from the other person. Those who have virtue hold the contract. Those without virtue hold the collections. The heavenly Tao has no favorites. It constantly gives to the kind people. 80. Small country, few people. Let them have many weapons, but not use them. Let the people regard death seriously, and not migrate far away. Although they have boats and chariots, they have no need to take them. Although they have armors and weapons, they have no need to display them. Let the people return to tying knots and using them, savor their food, admire their clothes, content in their homes, happy in their customs. Neighboring countries see one another, hear the sounds of roosters and dogs from one another. The people, until they grow old and die, do not go back and forth with one another. True words are not beautiful. Beautiful words are not true. Those who are good do not debate. Those who debate are not good. Those who know are not broad of knowledge. Those who are broad of knowledge do not know. Sages do not accumulate. The more they assist others, the more they possess. The more they give to others, the more they gain. The Tao of heaven benefits and does not harm. The Tao of sages assists and does not contend. The end.
Call action.
A call to action.
Call action.
Call to action.
A call to action.
A call to action. A call to action.
You can join the Whistling Podcast group on Facebook. I now have a website, thewhistlingpodcast.com. You can support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/The Whistling Podcast. And I also have a Quora site for discussions, thewhistlingpodcastspace.quora.com. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time on the Whistling Podcast.